So it has been confirmed by the NHL and plenty of sources out there that the city of Edmonton and Toronto are the NHL hub cities for the 2020 NHL Stanley Cup Playoffs. So we'll be talking about that in this video and some of the other cities that were in conversation of winning this bid. We'll be taking a look at that in this video. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey and want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Let's take a look at Edmonton and Toronto winning the Hub City Lottery. So there we go. So that happened, right? So a couple weeks ago, I actually made a video. I didn't end up posting it because we didn't know the other confirmed city, but it seemed like Vegas was confirmed as one of the two cities for the NHL in their hub, for looking for two hub cities to host the Stanley Cup Playoffs. And it was rumored at the time when that was reported that Vegas would be the Eastern Conference city of choice, and then the Western Conference teams would go to the East Coast, whether it was Toronto, Pittsburgh, Minnesota, one of those areas. But that didn't end up happening. As time went along, there was talk that Vancouver and Vegas would be the two hub cities. Vancouver fell through because they were not willing to change the restrictions for the NHL to have a host city there. The NHL had certain guidelines they wanted to fill. Asymptomatic players would still be eligible to play in the playoffs. And the city of Vancouver was not buying in. They were not willing to accommodate to what the NHL wanted. And we don't know all the details yet, but the city of Vegas fell through as well, as now we have Toronto and Edmonton as the host city. So we're taking a look at that here. So the Edmonton situation, it was pretty known well throughout most of the process that Edmonton was a high contender for the NHL and a city that the NHL was really looking at through most of the time. And I'm not completely shocked that this is what ended up happening. The city of Edmonton was sending out proposals. They have lots of arenas up there in Edmonton, and it made it an easy option for them to decide to pick the city of Edmonton. It's not, obviously Edmonton fans don't take this the wrong way, but Edmonton is a little bit more in the middle of nowhere than, say, New York or Boston or one of these places in the United States. So that makes sense. But then Toronto. Now, the reason I think they chose Toronto is their restrictions are a lot less restrictive, I guess. This is really, without better words to put, their restrictions are a lot looser than in a city like Vancouver. So the NHL was for a long time looking at Ontario, somewhere in the Ontario area, to try and use as a hub city. Now, obviously, Toronto has plenty of arenas there in some would say the mecca of hockey. So they have plenty of arenas to get that done, and that's where we're at now. So Edmonton and Toronto won the bids. Now, like I mentioned, Vancouver lost, unfortunately. We know more details about Vancouver at this point than Vegas. I'm sure that will come out. But the fact that Vegas lost this bid, kind of interesting. I was pretty sold that Vegas would be like I said, it was confirmed a couple of weeks ago by plenty of sources that Vegas was one of the two cities that would be hosting. Now, there's also some changes here as well, as the play-in round series, the first round, and the second round will be held in Toronto at the Scotiabank Arena. And the Edmonton Oilers Arena, Rogers Place, will hold the conference finals and the Stanley Cup Finals. So we will see if there is a Stanley Cup champion here in 2020. The Stanley Cup will be held up in Edmonton. So it changed a little bit as well in terms of the East and the West playing in different arenas. That has changed things, as obviously, like I said, they're going to have all the teams play in one hub city, which I'm not totally sure why they did that. I understand why they did the East and West. I feel like that's easier to get more games in. You have one game on the East Coast, say 7 o'clock, and then the West Coast at that same 7 o'clock Eastern time, and that's kind of how you run things, or you have the 7 o'clock game and then a 9 o'clock game, or you do even if you do like a 5 o'clock game on the East Coast and then a 7 o'clock, and you kind of try and make that work, so you have at least 3 or 4 games going a day. I don't know how they would necessarily do that. That's something we're going to figure out here. But the fact that they have a game on the East Coast and the Midwest Central time zone, it's going to be interesting. I think, like I said, I don't know how they're going to do the scheduling. It's going to be interesting because you have to assume 7 o'clock games in Toronto, or they just do games throughout the day. I wouldn't be surprised if they end up doing that as well because they have a lot of games to get through. That's probably the more likely scenario. So with that, July 13th, that may change, but it's already changed. It's been pushed back 3 days, is the start of training camp. We will see 2 preseason games before the play-in round series and the qualifying round. And then, obviously, we get into the first round, the second round. In Toronto, Edmonton, we get the conference finals and the Stanley Cup final. And like I said, probably the Stanley Cup final, you could probably assume sometime in early October. If we do have a Stanley Cup champion this year, that will be the time frame for a Stanley Cup champion this year. So if you have any questions and you have any comments on this video, and obviously as we get more information on this, leave in the comment section down below those updates just to let the viewers coming in a little bit later, straggling in, leave those in the comment section down below, and I'll try and update in the description as well. And if you like what we're doing here at Goal Line Hockey, want to see the latest news around the NHL, make sure to give this video a thumbs up and a subscribe down below. Congratulations to the city of Edmonton and Toronto on winning the Hub Cities.